There is this scene in the famous book 1984 where the main character is tortured by a member of the inner party, and he is asked how many finger is the inner party member holding. And when he answers 2, he gets tortured. When he answers 3, he also gets tortured. And eventually he arrives to the correct conclusion, and that is, how many fingers do you want me to say? And the idea is that in a totalitarian system, and George Orwell was criticizing the Nazis within that book, is the fact that there is no more reality. There is no more things that have meaning and they are grounded. Everything is movable. Everything can depend on what the party is saying. So this particular viral clip shows this lady talking about exactly that, and it's happening in Canada, and we're going to listen to it.
So get this, the Ontario Mathematics Coordinators Association has officially deemed the equation 2 plus 2 equals 4 to no longer be objectively correct, because instead of being a mathematically proven equation, instead they are calling it a white supremacist dog whistle.
So when they are calling something a white supremacist dog whistle, they're basically enforcing their authority. They are saying that if you do not comply with their new way of thinking, if you challenge it, then you should get fired, you should get ostracized, you should get pressured. Bad things should happen to you. So when they say something is white supremacist, they don't actually mean that the person is within the ideology that believes white people are superior. No. What they are saying is that you are not allowed to question this particular thing. Like, we have decided that this is the case, and anyone that goes against us is an enemy, and they're going to be persecuted. So the interesting thing about 2 plus 2 equals 4 is that you have different cultures around the world using different language, using different terminology, using different numbers, and they all come to the same conclusion. And obviously, mathematics is very important when it comes to engineering. Like, you can have bridges collapse, you can have nuclear reactors melt down, you can have airplanes not flying properly. Messing with this thing, right, like considering that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, you are basically messing with science as we know it. But of course, these individuals aren't interested in science. They're individuals are interested in spreading wokeness. They are interested in creating sheep. They are interested in creating individuals that will think whatever is necessary. Because the moment you agree that 2 plus 2 equals anything else besides 4, then you can agree to anything else. And this is what postmodernism is. I heard a very beautiful explanation of what postmodernism is in that of the following example. Imagine that you are sitting in your personal vehicle in the parking lot of a supermarket. And all of a sudden, the vehicle next to you starts to slowly move away. And it creates the illusion that you are moving. So what do? Well, the first thing you do is you're going to hit the brakes. And then you're going to look around for another building, other cars, something in the distance, maybe a hill, a sign. And you want to see something stationary so that you can understand if you are the one moving or if it's the car next to you. That's reality. But if you live in postmodernism world and you see the car next to you moving, and then you hit the brakes and you look around and you see that the building next to you is moving, the hill in front of you is moving, the signs are moving, the sun is moving, everything is moving, you do not have any point that's grounded. You do not have any point of reference. There is nothing. Everything is moving. So you can't really tell if you are the one moving or the car next to you is moving. Could be either or. This is what postmodernism tries to accomplish. And the reason for doing this is to give the people in power, those that have the ability to decide what is white supremacy and not, to be able to decide your reality, to be able to decide how you're going to think. Now, of course, they're not going to actually influence your reality. They can't literally do mind control, but they can't persuade you to only say things that are considered acceptable by other people, or at least that you think are considered acceptable by other people. So in this situation, you know that 2 plus 2 equals 4. They're not going to try to persuade you that it's not. But they are going to try to persuade you that if you say that 2 plus 2 equals 4, there will be consequences done against you. And this is just one example with mathematics, but like, you can go through political correctness and you can see many things that if you do not say the correct phrase or if you say something wrong, you are going to get persecuted.
Apparently, if you are emotionally neutral about the equation 2 plus 2 equals 4, then you are participating in covert white supremacy.
The best type of the covert. And splinter cell.
A, this is insane, but B, this is...
It's not insane, it's working. Like, that's why they are doing it, right? So you have all these activists. Now, they don't know mathematics. I can guarantee you that. Most of them are probably clueless. At best, you may have someone that's like a university professor and he has like some superficial knowledge of mathematics, but he's like one of those really bad university professors that everyone fails who joins their class because he is incompetent and can't teach for shit. So you have like these people, and the first thing they do is they latch on to the things that gravitate around the subject that they want to subvert. So in this case, they can gravitate around magazines that talk about mathematics or certain groups that talk about mathematics, but they're not really creating mathematics. And once they convert those institutions, maybe they can manage to convert something that gives prizes or awards, or they can create their own things, right? They can start making their own peer review, and they do this circle jerk where they peer review each other's literature. And then they gain some level of power within the field. And then they start calling the actual mathematics professor to be racist, white supremacist, yada yada. So now the mathematics professors are starting to bend the knee because they want to be acknowledged by the public. They want to get the awards. They want to get the fame that comes from being in those publications. So they're going to start to bend over. They're going to start to allowing, let's get some activists in our university to make sure that we don't have any white supremacists that believe that 2 plus 2 equals 4. This is a tactic that has been employed in many other fields. Comic books, movies, video games, like entertainment, whatever you want, right? Like the comic book critics don't read comic books. The video game critics don't play video games. Because it's not about the actual hobby. It's not about improving the hobby. It's about subverting it.
Verbatim exactly what happened in George Orwell's 1984. You tell me if this sounds like 2023 America. In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of their position...
I mean, we already have seen this during COVID, right? The party demanded that asking people to get IDs to vote is racist because people cannot afford to buy an ID. There are some individuals that are so poor, they cannot afford the $20 to buy an ID, and therefore requiring them to get one would be racist. But then they said, no, you actually need to have a QR code in order to enter McDonald's. So a person that can't have $20 to buy an ID all of a sudden has the money to buy a cell phone, to install the apps required, to do the traveling expenses required, to get the vaccine, to get the QR code, to install it, all of that, right? They also claimed at one point, I think it was Biden, that said it's difficult for minorities to get online. But at the same point, they go on and say, well, actually, you need to have a QR code. So you can see that one day they can say, no, you need to stay at home, stay safe. Literally the next day they say, no, you need to go out and protest because BLM is important and you need to go out and, advocate for civil rights and stuff. And then it's like, okay, well, now that Biden won, you need to go back home and stay safe. They are literally training people to think this way. Like, there are no more principles. There are not, like, whatever you're being told today that you have to do, well, you have to do it. No questions, no ifs, no buts. It's just executing orders like good little soldiers. This is, of course, a sign of fascism, and this is what George R.R. Martin was criticizing in his book. But yeah, I mean, verbatim, it is now being said that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. And I see people justifying it in different ways. First of all, they started saying that 2 plus 2 equals 4 only in base 10. In other bases, it doesn't. And I'm like, yes, but in mathematics, if you don't mention the base, then it's implied that it's base 10, right? Like when you go to the shopping mall, you don't ask, in what base are these prices, right? Is it base 3, base 4? No, it's in base 10. No one does that because it's basically an understanding. Then they said, yeah, but like there are situations where if you take 2 squares and you take 2 other squares and you put them together, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares and another square that's like all 4. So you have actually 2 plus 2 equals 5. And I'm like, yeah, sure, but you're just playing a language game now. The Greeks called the sky green because they didn't have a word for blue, but that doesn't mean that the sky was green. The sky was still blue. So what you're doing is like you're counting different things. Like the question was like how many squares of the exact same shape are there? What you're doing is you're like trying to play a little magician game and like, look, actually if you put two squares and two squares underneath, you get like these 4 squares, but all it's actually 5 squares. Right. Well, the question is correct. But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section.